What if I told you that Slipknot was never created to be just a band, but rather a musical franchise focused on its brand instead of its lineup? In their early days, the group was marketed as a brotherhood of 9 musicians, each playing a crucial role. However, today, nearly half of the band is comprised of independent contractors, and some of Slipknot's founding members have even hinted at a business model resembling a touring Broadway production. And fans aren't happy. By the end of this video, we'll uncover the dark truth about Slipknot's questionable business practices that may very well lead to their downfall. But to truly understand how we got here, we must first examine the band's shady history of abruptly parting ways with former members, starting with drummer Jay Weinberg. Slipknot announced Weinberg's dismissal via its social media on November 5th, 2023, citing creative differences. Fans were immediately devastated, as the drummer's impressive skills and showmanship had rapidly endeared him to the fan base since joining in 2014. His journey was made all the more inspiring as he had been a lifelong Slipknot fan, even recreating a childhood photo of himself meeting the band, but now as an official member. Sadly, Weinberg's childhood dream has suddenly been cut short, with little information available regarding the details behind his departure at time of publication. However, Weinberg is far from the first member Slipknot lost. There are 4 others, including bassist Paul Gray, who inadvertently started a civil war within the band that nearly resulted in their disintegration. Described by his bandmates as the very essence of Slipknot, Gray was adored by fans for his songwriting abilities as well as his frequent expressions of gratitude towards them.
Our fans are the greatest fans in the world, you know, and I'd do anything for them. And actually, I think our fans know that I would, you know, I mean, I'd literally have given the shirt off my back.
Unbeknownst to many, however, the beloved bassist was struggling with a crippling addiction behind the scenes. His substance issues were made public after a 2003 arrest, where an inebriated Gray was charged with drug possession after crashing his Porsche into another vehicle. The police found marijuana, 2 syringes, and cocaine in his car. In the coming years, Gray would continue to spiral out of control, with his wife Brenna regularly finding him passed out in their home or discovering used needles he had hidden away. By May of 2010, Brenna would attempt to stage an intervention for her husband, reaching out to his bandmates in Slipknot for help. To her despair, despite frequently referring to themselves as a family within their songs, not one member of the band was willing to get involved. According to Brenna, one bandmate was playing golf just 2 minutes away from their home on the day of Gray's intervention, but still refused to attend. When Gray's family finally confronted him about his drug abuse, he fled to the Town Place Suites Hotel in Urbandale, Iowa. He never returned home, as only 2 days later, Gray was found dead in room 431. A hotel employee reported that there was a hypodermic needle found near Gray's body, and that several pills were scattered around the room. Autopsy results showed that Gray had died of an overdose of morphine and fentanyl. Gray's first and only daughter, October, was born just 3 months later. The bass player's death deeply affected Slipknot, particularly the band's founding drummer, Joey Jordison, who was never quite able to come to terms with the loss.
I'd just like to say that I miss my brother so much. This is very hard for me right now. I just want to say that I love you, Paul.
Jordison would attempt to deal with this grief by channeling his sorrow into the creation of the next Slipknot album. However, during that time, lead singer Corey Taylor was busy recording an album with his side project, Stone Sour, which created tension between him and Jordison. Though Jordison would constantly say in interviews that he wanted to get the band back into the studio as soon as possible, Taylor publicly rejected the idea and stated that he was not yet ready to write a Slipknot album without Gray, and perhaps never would be.
I let him know. I was like, man, I don't know when I'm going to be ready to do this. To be quite honest, I'm nowhere near ready to make an album.
Jordison responded aggressively, stating that Slipknot was his baby and that the band would carry on with or without Corey Taylor.
You know, I have a bunch of songs written, and I'm in rehearsal right now with all the guys, and it's completely on fire. And as far as Slipknot's concerned, it will always exist with him or without him. So that's it.
Unfortunately for Jordison, the exact opposite would be true, as a few years later, Slipknot would fire the drummer via email without so much as the courtesy of a face-to-face meeting. Fans immediately began to turn on Slipknot, which is evident from the comments on metal news websites from that time. "You can't replace Joey," wrote one fan. "It's going to be hard to find anyone near close to him that plays with that passion that makes Slipknot," with another simply commenting, "No Joey equals no Slipknot." For years, there was no clear explanation for Jordison's departure from the band, leading fans to worry that drug use may have been a factor. Like Paul Gray, Jordison had a history of addiction. He had also gained a significant amount of weight, causing concern among fans that he might be struggling with alcoholism as well. Corey Taylor would only ignite further speculation when asked if Jordison's dismissal was related to substance abuse during a 2014 interview with Metal Hammer. "He's just in a place in his life right now that's not where we are," replied Taylor. "There's only so far that I can give an explanation." After years of silence, Jordison revealed in June of 2016 that, towards the end of his time in Slipknot, he began suffering from transverse myelitis, a neurological disease that causes inflammation in the spinal cord, and robbed him of his ability to play drums. The drummer elaborated that his bandmates mistook his illness for drug addiction, which led to him getting kicked out of the band. However, despite Jordison's denial, medical research has shown that transverse myelitis can arise as a complication of addiction to heroin and cocaine, further pointing to drug abuse problems with Jordison. Things took a tragic turn on July 26, 2021, when a 911 call was made outside of Jordison's home by his ex-girlfriend, Amanda Victoria. She stated that Jordison's family had not heard from him in days and described him as, quote, "a really bad alcoholic with health issues." In the most emotional part of the call, Amanda stated that when she entered the house to check on Jordison, she was immediately greeted by a foul smell that led her to believe that he was dead and had been for some time. When law enforcement finally arrived, her worst fears were confirmed. Joey had passed away alone, and no one was sure when. He was only 46. Days later, Jordison's bandmates in his most recent musical project, Sinsanum, would all but confirm that substance abuse issues were a contributing factor in his death. Writing in an official statement, "Joey also had his demons, and nothing hurts more than knowing we did everything in our power to help and couldn't get through to him." Slipknot would pay tribute to both Joey Jordison and Paul Gray at the end of their Knotfest Iowa set a few months later, with Corey Taylor stating that the band wanted to make sure fans knew that, although Jordison was gone, he was still a part of the Slipknot family, and always would be. The same could not be said for former Slipknot percussionist Chris Fane, who had the most controversial exit from the band, and single-handedly exposed the group's shady business practices to the world. In March of 2019, Fane had allegedly discovered the existence of several Slipknot business entities through which Clown and Corey Taylor were taking in more money than the rest of the band, and subsequently filed a lawsuit against them, claiming that he had been told that the band's profits were being split equally among all members, which was consistent with the band's portrayal of its 9 members as a family. However, the band's manager, Rob Shore, would state that Chris was merely an employee and not a shareholder, owner, or member of any business entity related to Slipknot. Shore further revealed that the only controlling members of the band were Clown and Corey Taylor, indicating that the band is now more of a business than a brotherhood, and fans were shocked. "Corey Taylor and the rest of Slipknot are money-hungry assholes," wrote one fan. "They preach empty words of being a family, but show who they really are when money gets involved. Joey and Chris are 2 perfect examples." The situation became even more heartbreaking when, after Slipknot fired Fane, an old interview resurfaced where Fane disclosed that he had been having problems with his bandmates since the beginning of his time with the group.
To understand Slipknot back then is really difficult because it's like such mental abuse. That was pretty much the hazing part for me. Never getting any love from the guys at all. They wouldn't let me record. Like halfway through the record, they just wouldn't let me record on any of the songs, and it was just a really hard time.
Fane eventually settled his lawsuit against Slipknot and retreated from the public eye. That is, until June of 2023, when Fane gave his first post-Slipknot interview to the Drum for the Song podcast.
The fans really were the only part that was great for me. That stage performance and seeing them and seeing the reaction was the best part. The rest of it can f*** off.
Fain expressed his dissatisfaction with the band's demanding tour schedule and the egos of his bandmates, which is now even more relevant in light of keyboardist Craig Jones's departure from Slipknot on June 7th, 2023. The announcement of Jones's exit was as shocking as it was sudden, taking place just before the band was scheduled to perform at the Nova Rock Festival in Austria. When Slipknot took the stage, fans were astonished to learn that the group had already replaced Jones with an anonymous new member, causing immediate backlash on social media with comments such as, "RIP Slipknot, half of their classic lineup is gone," as well as, "It's so sad to see how much this band has become a brand and a business." Some fans would even resort to extreme measures in their attempts to gain an explanation for Jones's departure, such as harassing the band's families. Stacey Thompson, who was married to guitarist Mick Thompson, posted a message on her Instagram to inform fans that Jones departed because of personal issues in his life, writing, "Some things are far too deep, painful, and intricate to just paint all over the front page of social media." However, fans are not only worried about a single member leaving Slipknot. They are concerned that the band will follow in the footsteps of Kiss, who have received backlash for hiring replacement musicians to impersonate the original members. But interestingly enough, there are several clues from years past that seem to indicate that this may have been the plan all along. Upon their formation, the members of Slipknot collectively decided to wear masks and jumpsuits so that the audience's attention would be directed towards their music, rather than the individual musicians. The band would take this one step further by abandoning their legal names and adopting unique numbers ranging from 0 to 8 as their stage names. Furthermore, many members of Slipknot, including the late Joey Jordison, have also expressed how influential Kiss was to them during their formative years. In a 2011 interview with Metal Hammer, Jordison emphasized that Slipknot's importance is not tied to its individual members, stating, "Slipknot's not about who's in the band. It's a lifeblood. It's a force. It's about a connection between a bunch of people." Clown would later echo these sentiments during a 2015 interview with Rolling Stone, where he expressed his desire for Slipknot to live on forever by having new members replace current ones and continuing the cycle indefinitely. An approach that just so happens to coincide to what Kiss co-founder Gene Simmons suggested in a 2022 interview, where he proposed that his band could continue as a rock and roll franchise in the future. Moreover, in a 2023 interview, Slipknot's frontman Corey Taylor made the startling revelation that he won't be in the band for much longer.
Maybe I've got another 5 years left. If they wanted to continue and I wanted to retire, I would help them find somebody. This band,
that's interesting,
has always been bigger than the sum of its own parts.
Whether fans like it or not, the fact that nearly half of Slipknot is now comprised of hired musicians suggests that the band may already be transitioning into a more modular business model similar to that of the Blue Man Group or Cirque du Soleil, who perform around the world without a fixed lineup. For their part, Kiss will be ending their career in 2023 after 50 years together as a band and a staggering total of 11 lineup changes, utilizing a sum of 57 musicians both on stage and in the studio. So if fans are hoping for 25 more years of Slipknot, they may have to get comfortable with the idea of their favorite band slowly morphing into a performance art company right before their very eyes.